So we're going to talk about photogrammetry. Photogrammetry. It has two M. It's a very long name. What it is. So basically, so you've got an object. So let's say I have this little bear here. Actually, Soyan, you can do it on your teddy bear. So you take a lot of photos from different angles. So let's say this is the camera. The camera is looking at the image. So you take photos from, like, some might ask how many photos. I would say like many. So how we start? We start from like going through circles around this object, right? And if you find something to elevate this object, so you see that I have this little plinth that I position, or tube that I position the object on top of it, so I would be able to go through another circle underneath and take like 20 photos from underneath. But actually this circle should have be the same. So try to keep the same distance. It doesn't need to be super accurate, but keep the same distance and go around this object as circles. Actually, you can photogrammetry someone, like one of you as well, with closed eyes or open eyes, doesn't matter, as long as the person could hold still. So the object must be like very static. If one of you can hold still for, like, let's say a minute, very like a wooden, and then like, so if you, the other person has like a, you know, fast camera or mobile phone, you can take like lots of photos from the person. So you take a lot of photos from a lot of photos from different angles. And then, so you take photos. We use a photogrammetry app. In the app, you align them, align photos. Then you generate point clouds. Then you generate a mesh out of it. A model, a mesh is generated. So from photos, you come to the 3D mesh out of it. So this is like real life photos. And here is 3D mesh. 3D mesh is messy. The first one that you get. It's high poly. It has a lot of problems. You need the 3D to process the mesh. Mesh needs to go through processing and retopology. So, for today, for the entire photogrammetry process, from aligning and creating point cloud and meshing and texture generation as well, we use a software called Agisoft Metashape. But as I said, there's a high chance that you work with reality capture as well. We don't have it now, but you're going to work with it very soon. And we take it into Maya or ZBrush for processing and retopology. Okay, you can do it in Blender as well, doesn't matter. So some notes: avoid anything shiny. So like even if you want to, let's say I have a cell phone here and I want to do photogrammetry on it, or like a beautiful you know, shiny cup, you want to do photogrammetry on it. So what you do, you spray. You have to have multiple versions of it because that you're gonna make it useless. You spray an opaque kind of paint on it. So that's how like you do photogrammetry. So you do the photogrammetry of the textures and the mesh separately. For the textures, you take a lot of photos of the object, but for the 3D processing of it, you have to spray some opaque paint on it, so to make it opaque. Avoid anything transparent as well. So these objects, like a glass, like a bottle, these objects won't be photogrammetried. That's a verb now. So try to keep the same distance when you take photos. One very important, high-res photos matter. So then if you have like a 40K camera, so of course that's a better option for doing photogrammetry than your 12 megapixel camera, right? A 40 megapixel is better than a 12 megapixel. So you need, like, you need everything bright and even. Lighting, bright and even. So this lighting condition that we are in it is not the best. If I had like lots of light around it, it would have been, the result would have been much better. Also, you want an object who don't have any light direction on it baked. So let's say you do the photogrammetry, but on it you see the light coming from a side. So in the 3D world, if you want to light it from the opposite side, the shadows still are baked in the texture. So that's what you want to avoid. That's why we use this is professional now. Use polarizing filters, and on camera fill lights. So basically fill light flashes from the camera to the object. So we don't have, we're gonna use just a basic mobile phone today, but that's fine. So this last note, we're not gonna do it today. Okay. So one important note is that background matters. So like when you take photos, some might think, okay, this is my object here on this base. So like if some even do this, like they use a green screen in the background and they rotate the image. No. So how the software gonna realize the camera is rotating around? The software looks at the spatial information from the background. So it's okay if the background is busy as long as you mask it out, right? So the space and the background matters. Okay, let's continue. So as you see, like I took photos of this little bear from all angles, from bottom to top. I saved it as JPEG because they were in HEIC format of Apple. So all you like in this is edges of Metashape, and you navigate inside by just rotating this little ball in the middle. So all you have to do, everything is in this workflow, menu. You just click it, add photo. Let me just go through and select all of these. I add them all. So you can start generating just click here and just start align the photos. So that's the first step. So let's align them. So before doing the mask, align them, so you can align them with the highest or just like even low. I keep it high. It might take some time, so that's why I pause when it does. So you just press align and then wait. So like you see that the first align photos, it generates an approximation about where these cameras has been positioned. You see that like you see a little bear there in the middle. So it's coming to existence. So, but there are, like you see that the points are everywhere. Actually, I can see Keaton here. I can see the carpet. I can see the whole class. But I have to mask them out. So the process of masking is the most time-consuming part. So you have to double-click on this, and then use a intelligent Caesar. It's not that intelligent, but so you just click and click and click, and then you mask around your object. You don't need to be super accurate, just like separating the background. I wish we had something like Photoshop object selection, would have been very helpful here. So what I do, I just close it here, and then so here is the trick. You right click on it, you say add selection, and then right click again and say invert mask, because the mask is the surrounding, not the object, right? Okay, so I leave you to it. So and then I pause, and then I just do mask the entire 46 photos, and you take the photos as I do it. Okay, cool. I masked all the photos, as you see, like all of them are masked. So now after masking all the photos, you have to run the align photos again, but this time you see this reference pre-selection and reset current alignments are on. You don't need to do anything with other stuff, except I just put this accuracy to the highest this time and let it run. So this time it runs faster. Cool. What I do when I look at the model, I should see a more accurate version now and less noise. I still see a lot of noise here. But anyway, what I do, I go to the build dense cloud. Yeah, these are the masks, and then I build the dense cloud now. So what I always like to make the dense cloud in high. So let's create the dense cloud. It basically makes a lot of dots there. Okay, almost done. Okay, cool. So dense cloud is created, and now I can build the mesh. So based on the dense cloud, high resolution mesh, okay. And ta-da, you get, like, you see that I have my little bear here. Looks very similar, but of course underneath, as you see, is not done properly because there's not enough data there. So how to process that? So like, so there are ways to clean up things and like send them back and forth between Maya. So you see that I didn't do a good job on top. I should have taken like some more photos on top to avoid this, but this is already something interesting. So what I do, I export this, export file, export model as FBX, of course. Autodesk FBX, and I call it their Photogrammetry. So you export it. I don't want to export cameras. Oh, by the way, before exporting, it's good to make the textures. You see the textures, but they are not made yet. So go to the workflow and build the textures as a diffuse map. Yes, this is 8K texture, which is like a big one. So I press OK. Take some time. Okay, once the texture is applied, you see like, oh, that looks much neater now. So it just processes all the textures, and this looks much more closer to the object that I have. So now I export this model with the texture. I call it the Photogrammetry. Save it. Again, I don't want to export the cameras, and I want my textures to be PNG for a better quality. Okay, export it. And while it's exporting, I open Maya. Okay, it's exported in Maya. I bring it in as, let me import it from photos, pictures actually. So this is my bear. Once imported, guys, the model is somewhere in outside world somewhere. So in the first step, don't touch it. Just bring it in. This is like, you see that the model is just not clean very much. And when you press 6, you should be able to see the textures. Yet the textures are showing it has something. So I'm going to turn off. So it comes usually as Fung material with reflectivity on it. So I turn off the reflectivity, so that's more, and also a specularity. That's more accurate to what my object that I had. So this is high. This is a very dense mesh. If I look at the display, heads-up display, poly count, I see it's about 300 to 20,000 polygons. So, and also here you see that the lower part is not visible. So the first problem are these like little, like kind of polygons that are hovering around. So we're calling, so they are like individual islands. So if you right click on your object, say face, double click on the main island. So I press 4, you can see it. So I double clicked on the main island, and you see a lot of like hovering islands around. So you just double click on the main island and just like then hold shift and then box drag, then the tiny islands would be selected, and then you press delete, they get deleted. Now what else you can do, you can select your mesh and lower down. So the poly count is around 300,000, right? So I just right click and just go to the reduce, and I reduce like about 95% of it. So I press reduce and I wait and see what happens. So now you see I get a much neater geometry here. It has 15,000 faces, which is much more manageable, right? So I delete the history, and then I shift right click. I want to see if I can retopologize. So when you retopologize, shift right click, retopologize with, like, let's say I like this 15,000 faces, maybe 10,000 faces, and you press retopologize. It asks you for non-manifold geometry. If it doesn't, okay, I think I should undo that. Oh, that's a nice and neat geometry. This is very soft. So what I do, I undo that. So sometimes it gives an error that it has non-manifold geometry. So you go to the mesh, to the cleanup, and select non-manifold geometry, clean it up, and so that goes away. Alt Shift D to delete the history. Shift right click, retopology again. Where is it? Retopologize again, but this time I make sure that I reserve hard surf edges is on. So let's retopologize it. Okay, guys, look, this is a much neater geometry, right? But the texture is gone. So what I do, I apply just a basic texture on a shader on it. I should have deleted the history, that's why it takes time. So I make sure to delete the history, Alt Shift D, delete the history. So this is not a bad geometry. So what I do, I export this export selection as OBJ into the same folder basically, and I call it Bear Retopo. It's been retopologized, right? So I get back to the uh, Metashape, and I import it basically. I import model. It's been exported as, so it's, sorry, I just exported as not OBJ, so I should select object here, OBJ export, and call it Bear Retopo. Export it, import it back into here. I should see it now. Oh, it's here up outside. So I import it and says load UDIM texture layout, yes. Replace default model, yes. Actually, if I click here, model solid. Oh, where's my model? Should I import it again? Okay. So it should be replaced in the middle. So I imported it as FBX instead of OBJ. OBJ was not working for some reason, I don't know. You see that it's a much nicer and neater geometry now, but the texture is missing. So you just like go to the workflow and project the texture again, basically. So you clean up the mesh, you project the texture again, and then you have a much cleaner like mesh with a proper texture that you can use it either as a reference, or if you do a little bit of like painting and geometry. Basically, what you saw here, me taking it into Maya, if you would have spent some time taking it into ZBrush and close that hole and just like clean it up and like we don't have time. So like you can take it in ZBrush, like turn it into like kind of Dynamesh and close that hole and just clean up like soften the rough edges and all sorts of that, and then retopologize it and then bring it in and then project the textures again, and then you're gonna get like a beautiful geometry right there. So let's see this one. So the texture projection is almost okay. So once done, I should see a proper texture. Model texture. Yeah, I can see a proper texture, which I can export it again. Export model. And this time I say bare photogrammetry textured. So if I import this one into Maya this time, maybe I save this as well. Photogrammetry. If I import the second one this time, you see that it comes with a very nice. So it's a very nice geometry with a very nice texture on it, but it's hovering in there. So now it's time to move it to the center. So go to the modify, center pivot, then snap it to the middle, X, and then go to side views and rotate it and kind of position it where it has to be. So maybe from front view, I just rotate it so it just looks front to me. I rotate in word position. Okay. So now once you're happy, you just freeze the transformation too, and then that's my model. So if I have had some time, I would have taken this into ZBrush and remove these and clean it up, but you get the idea.